salutations, and welcome to our glorious Ashes of Creation April development update. We hope everyone is well and safe. I am Margaret Crone, your community marketing lead, and with me, as per usual, is our one, the only, the ship driver,
Uh-oh.
aka creative director, Stephen Sharif. You're driving the ship.
I forgot to mute my phone. I'm sorry. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry. I was getting distracted by Twitch chat. Yeah, I'm great. I was actually answering this to folks in Twitch chat earlier. It's been a very busy month, so much that I feel like I blinked and it just passed by.
Oh yeah, I
But
know.
not a bad thing. I think that means there's just a lot going on and that, I'm moving and grooving.
I actually didn't get too much sleep last night because our uh the Magic the Gathering games that we played last night after work, we were up a little late and that was a lot of fun. We had like 15 people from the studio playing Magic Commander after work. It's become a pretty considerable size group.
You guys always play on Thursdays, and it's
I
like, it's not the
know.
best day for me. I was like, I want to play. I even bought a Commander deck because I played a lot of MTG, but not Commander, and I'm
Oh,
kind of
Commander's so much
excited to
fun. I
play.
love Commander. Yeah, you don't get the wacky,
Especially with a
crazy
big group
combos.
like that.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like it's
we had an Emperor game, we had a Penta, we had a couple two-headed games. It was fun.
nice. Well, I'm
Yeah.
happy for that. The other element of that, what I was saying was like, it's been amazing working with this team because everyone's super passionate. And although I've worked on a lot of teams, I haven't worked on a lot of teams where everyone just like comes to work with like this enthusiasm for the day versus like, oh, I'm coming to work today. It's very different atmosphere. And, I absolutely adore everyone we work with. And my
Oh
team
yeah,
personally has grown over the years. I know we're going to talk
I
about it in the studio
know.
update, but it's pretty amazing. How are you
Yeah.
doing? I feel like you need a
I'm
vacation,
doing
sir.
good. There's no time for vacations.
I know.
No, I'm doing really good. I don't know. It's a little chilly today, so if I'm shaking, it's because I'm cold. But and I left my jacket at home.
Shaken,
But
not
no,
stirred. No.
I know I'm doing good. Yeah, a lot of work this last month. The town hall. We had an internal town hall actually. Was it yesterday or the day before? I can't
Yes.
remember.
No. Day before,
Day
Wednesday.
before yesterday,
Yeah.
Wednesday.
They're all melding
Um,
together.
yeah, it was like a 3-hour town hall session for our studios. But it was really great. And, you know, it's always cool when everybody gets to see everything that everyone's working on. And we, are at the end of a particular milestone internally from our production team, getting kind of that look at everything is a lot of fun and very inspiring. So I loved our internal town hall, and then
Yeah.
of course it's almost like a second stream, but just for the team.
Like an internal private
Yeah, it's
stream.
like an
Yeah.
internal live stream.
Yeah.
It
It
was
was
kind of
very
cool.
cool. And people are in chat going, what about getting some Ashes of Creation clothes to keep us warm? And we're working on
Oh,
it
I
on
know.
on
Yeah.
my end on the marketing side for sure. We know that a lot of people are asking for it within our community. So there's lots of stuff going on that front. I think Stephen has teased a little bit of like a while ago in regards to it.
Yes.
But as we get
Soon.
closer, we'll be sharing more stuff on that front. But we've got a
Soon.
whole slew of great things to cover today. So just if this is your first time tuning in with us, down in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see our like run of show basically. We have our reminders, our studio update, which we talked a little bit about here, design and engineering update with some eventful segments in there, and an environment update as well as character art update and Q&A. So we will get right to that, kicking it off with our reminders. First and foremost, we've got our question or our comment spotlight from YouTube. If you are a YouTube subscriber and you leave us a comment on our video, we will be selecting a random person and we'll read your comment. And if you have a question in there, we'll answer it. So this one is from Stephen Barley. Thank you for subscribing to us over on YouTube and leaving us a lovely comment. Their comment says, I love what you are doing with the game. With regards to character customization, I would love to see certain customizations that require in-game challenges to achieve. Maybe there would be some extremely hard to complete quests that allows you to obtain unique eye colors, hairstyles, scars, tattoos, or in especially rare cases, perhaps slightly glowing or animated variations of those. And
I
I don't know if you
I
want to
think I think
confirm
this
stuff.
I think Stefan might be in our studio, like with some bug devices or something. No, sorry, I called him Stefan because he spelled his name wrong.
Steven, Stefan, yeah. I'm not
But
sure which how you pronounce it.
no, but yeah, that's absolutely something that that design and the character creator team has been, discussing. Stuff that we want to do is have unlockable features, as Stephen was discussing there, where like, oh, you have that scar because you participated in this siege or these many sieges, or you have this tattoo because of a cultural background or because of a quest that was accomplished, where you're able to get that. That's absolutely a level of progression that makes the character creator relevant, not just at the start of your experience in an MMO, but it gives you a reason to visit those salons and make changes to your character as it grows and has a history, a background that can be communicated through these customization options. And that's a really cool, an element to it that we want to incorporate 100%.
Yeah. So what you're asking for, we got you, homie.
Boom.
Boom, done. All right, next up, of course, we have our reminder for a monthly cosmetic swap over. The Road to Desolation is scheduled for to swap over on May 11th, 2022 at 11 a.m. Pacific. So if you'd like those, snag them while they're hot because we're going to have some new ones coming your way. And of course, this month we had a little bit of a different feedback. It wasn't a part of our dev updates per se, but let me go back over there. We had some hairstyle feedback that we requested from you all. And in regards to that, I think they'll be popping some in there, but we basically were asking you guys to kind of provide to us some of the hairstyles and hair types that you like. We heard a lot of your feedback in regards to that. We actually compiled all the feedback about all of the character customization, and we went back and talked to the design team about it. Steven was there as well. And it seems like most of the things you guys want, we are going to be implementing. Obviously, when it came to the character creator, we weren't completely done showcasing all of the hairstyles that we'll have. We'll have a whole slew of them, different textures, different hair types and styles. But in the interim, because it was such a hot topic, we created a new thread where we hope you all will share images of hairstyles that you'd like to see, so that we can, share those with our team and hopefully incorporate them as much as we possibly can in our development phases.
Yeah, and it's important to note, we've said this many times, you guys are aware of this, like art is a continuing work in progress. And the character creator, we wanted to show you guys kind of the level of capabilities at an early stage, which means many of those assets, many of the ideas that you guys shared were already planned, and kind of part of the character creator roadmap. So look forward to in the future getting more updates on those features as they get implemented.
For sure. And we will be compiling that. So make sure that you head on over to our forums, check out the discussion feedback thread requesting hairstyles for the character creator over there, and toss us their feedback. I believe I saw Dagnar and Roshan posting it in chat. Click on it, leave us some images of what you'd like to see. And I think with that, that wraps up our reminders. Short and sweet today. Next up, we have our studio update, which I will toss over to Stephen.
Yeah, absolutely. So the studio is growing, actually. Since the start of this year, we have hired
A lot.
23 additional people to the team, which is really cool, because we are getting an incredible amount of talented individuals. But aside from the talent, individuals who are just MMORPG fans and players, and they have a passion for this genre and for the project, and they were following along. And it's really nice to be in a position from a studio perspective where your project is known and it's desired amongst the industry to participate with it. And you have these natural applications and interests that are coming every day that our HR team and is doing really great hard work. Stacy and Cameron Midori and John helping to onboard and facilitate these applicants. So very excited for that. The teams are growing. I love seeing the teams growing. I go out to lunch with the teams and meet these new faces, and I love seeing just the passion in the eyes of people who are working on bringing to life what you guys want, what we want, and what is going to be the next great thing when it comes to MMOs. So the growth is doing really good. Internally, we also are very close to getting our graphics done and our logos and signs and everything put up, and the studio set dressed to the point where we're going to start recording some videos with the team and give you guys some insight. I know we've done those in the past, and we've talked about how we're going to be doing them here in the future again, but I'm excited to get that stuff running again. It's going to be really cool, I think, for you guys to get a behind the scenes look. I know Margaret's super excited
I
about that as
know.
well.
This is my whole team has just been chomping at the bits to do more things like that. So if you really enjoyed the Dev Diary series, we want to do more of those things, and also just bite-sized stuff on social, through like Instagram stories, Snapchat, maybe TikTok,
Absolutely.
things like that. So
Yes. And then on top of that, we actually completed our first milestone of the year last week, I believe it was the end or beginning of last week. Can't quite discuss everything that was there because not all of it is ready yet, but a lot of great things internally from a development standpoint that is going very well and is very exciting, which will be trickling out over, I know I'm teasing this, but it'll be trickling out over, the next few months
yeah.
to see that kind of stuff. So all in all, things are going really good on the studio front.
Yeah, it's been very, very exciting for me too, because I've gotten to experience what like it was like when we're all kind of like in a little garage studio where we could like open up the garage door and it was like a small
Oh my
group,
gosh,
and now it's
yes.
like this massive building that we're in, and I don't get to see
You're
everybody
looking
every day. It's so weird.
right, and you might see some faces, and you're like, "Who's that person?" And you're like,
Yeah.
"That's a weird experience."
I am fortunate in the company that I get to see all of the new hires as they come in because we're
Yes.
like flagging their accounts and things like that. So I do get to see faces, kind of like little
Yeah.
pictures of them, but sometimes they don't match necessarily what they look like, in person. Especially people who use like Goku as their image or something. But it has been pretty cool seeing all the new
Yeah,
folks.
it is
I'm
cool.
I'm excited, and like when we see potlucks and it's just like this massive amount of people in the cafeteria, it just
Oh
excites
yeah.
me. Yeah.
It is always fun to see that for sure. And last potluck, you guys had a little Ren
Yeah,
Fair
we did a
dress up.
Ren
That was
fair.
cool.
Yeah. We posted some photos of folks who wanted to be in photos. So if you want to check that out, it's on our LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of those places. Some people brought their A game with costumes. I just threw on something quick. But let's move on to the design and engineering update then. Let's first preface, everything that we talk about is subject to change potentially through development as we test things. So just keep that in mind as we talk about things here. But first, let's talk about what have they been doing generally on the design and engineering side. Maybe
There's
start with engineering and then go into
sure.
design so we can tie it into today's topic.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that's been that's been worked on over the last month. Engineering's really been focusing a lot on let's see, we have the node layout tool that's been getting some adjustments that Roy's been working on, and the node team on the design side has been working on, especially with environment. It's kind of like changing the way that the node layouts work. To facilitate some of the additional service buildings that are going to be incorporated in Alpha 2. We want to kind of create a layout tool that allows even, each of the nodes to kind of be represented in a unique way. We've talked about that in the past, but more importantly, also that we maintain consistency on certain building locations, especially player housing, and specific building service building types as we progress into stages 4, 5, and 6 of the node's progression. So that's something that's been getting a little bit of a redesign. In addition, you guys probably noticed in Alpha 1 how many of the nodes were relatively flat. There was not a lot of topography when it came to kind of sections or districts of the city that lived at different heights, essentially kind of creating a unique silhouette that's possible with the node layout. So now that we've had kind of our approach for Alpha 2 with the nodes that we've manually been constructing from a layout perspective that Chris Justo and Bucky and Jason Neal have been kind of participating and fleshing out. The engineering team has been providing for that node layout tool the type of additional requirements that are requested. Also on the AI systems, engineering's been working closely with Chong and the design team on kind of the requirements that the Alpha 2 creatures need to have from a behavior tree perspective, the ability to kind of weigh certain actions and or response arcs that exist within that behavior tree. How do we how do we value those scores? How do we make those types of actions live in parallel with one another, right? If I'm trying to cast an ability as a monster, but I'm also trying to move to a particular waypoint as a result of some other occurrence on the player's behalf, I need to be able to calculate that in the AI's brain at the same time with one another, right? So a lot of engineering work has been led by Russell Peltz on changing up the AI systems from Alpha 1 to accommodate all of the additional behaviors that we want to see out of the creatures, that even that the dynamic type of behaviors, right? So there's a significant amount of work that's been done on that front. Combat has been a huge endeavor over the last actually several months. And through a lot of the prototyping that the design team and the engineering team and our VFX team and our animation team have been
On the
working
character
on.
art team.
Yeah,
It's like all of them together.
for sure, 100%. Character art, not so much in the combat prototyping, because the models are kind of staying consistent there. But for example, with the assassin class, with our dagger weapons, we didn't previously have that in Alpha 1. So those are entirely new animation sets that are required to have those dual wielded kind of daggers. And it's something you guys might be seeing soon in the future. But that prototyping phase over the last several months has really been to kind of flesh out the major revamp that we've been working on for combat, because part of the biggest amount of feedback that we got from Alpha 1 was with regards to combat. And we have a lot of ideas on the things that we wanted to try. And, the best way to kind of flesh those ideas out, obviously, is through prototyping. And in development, prototyping is just kind of, combination of rapid iteration, of standing up these ideas without full-fledged kind of code support, doing so in a blueprint setting or in a test level, where you can really kind of throw a lot of different things at the wall and you can rapidly iterate on how that stuff feels, get feedback from the team, feedback from focus groups, and then you can take the direction that is getting the kind of best bang for the feeling buck, so to speak. So it's been great to kind of see that. But in addition, that phase allows for us to really expand upon the versatility of what our ability system can do. And that's been spearheaded by Keenan and Adam with regard on the code side, with regards to what design has access to do for all the ability systems, right? And not just the ability systems, but also like your combat weapon montages and your basic attacks. So there's been a lot of work on that front. It's not quite ready to show. I know so many people are waiting to see combat updates.
It's the top thing we get
It is
asked
100%,
all the time.
but we have to be very careful when we present what's been worked on, that it has to be at a particular state that's presentable, right? Obviously, you guys know this. You're a core audience. You're tuning in here and you're watching our live streams. But the moment we release an update with regards to combat, that spreads like wildfire, right? That's what we call essentially a marketing beat.
Mhm.
This is something that is out of our control. It's content creators pick it up. They're going to show it to very unengaged audiences, and we want to make sure that the presentation is at a point where when it grabs those legs that we don't have control over from a marketing perspective, that it'll stand by itself. It won't need our verbal support and kind of talking about it. It'll be a visual component that is visceral and looks good and has people's support. So
We want to set the
uh,
right precedent because if people look at something and it's a prototype and it's in really early phases, they might
yeah,
make comments like, "Oh, this isn't very good combat."
yeah,
And it's like, "Well, we know
absolutely,
that. It's a
yeah.
prototype." So that's why
No,
we have to make sure that it's in a
here
solid enough state.
the delicate blend between a transparent development process, but also understanding that majority of your player audience will not grasp or will not take into context what a work in progress looks like. So certain things we have to polished to the point where they're presentable, where they can be understood again in its own context without my verbal support or Margaret's verbal support, right?
I think a great
Um,
example of that is the character creator,
yeah,
right? We went through many phases prior to that of the character creator, and we would not have wanted to share those with you all, not because we don't want to share the development process, but because there will be people who take that and look at it and go, "This isn't, why would I want to play that?"
yeah.
Right?
The
So,
character creator is a prime example of what good looks like when it comes to a feature that can stand on its own, right? That's something that can be shared and people understand that. So, anyways, I don't want to go off on the
too much of a
combat too
tangent.
much,
Yeah.
but essentially, the combat, the ability systems, the tool support there has progressed a significant amount. And by the way, as prototyping lends to those additional features within the combat tools, it actually is an exponential speed modifier, right? When those additional things come online, we can actually more rapidly prototype and more rapidly iterate as well, which feeds back into kind of the process of getting good combat, right? Of getting something that something that feels good. So there's been a lot of work on that front. Buoyancy and vehicle physics. There's been a lot of work done from Michael Brady and from Mikhail on mount controls, on flight and gliding mechanics that'll be present in Alpha 2, the buoyancy of ships, the physics behind vehicle movement for siege weapons. We had some representation of that, of course, in Alpha 1. But since Alpha 1, it was added to the schedule, of course, for us to go back to refine those things. Their work's in progress. We have additional passes that are done on them, additional support that's presented for those things. And I'm happy to say that they're looking quite good, and you may see some updates on those in the near future. Networking has been a big, of course, endeavor on the engineering side. There's been a lot of work on that front by Zach and by Hunter and by Ben. Um, and that actually is pretty exciting, but of course I can't talk too much about that stuff.
Yeah.
The platform, the web teams, our backend services, Mark and his team have been doing an incredible job from an engineering perspective on supporting pretty much everything that the gameplay engineers are needing from them. So
And
it's
also
exciting to
my
see.
team. I
Yes,
appreciate them greatly. I
absolutely.
work with
Yes.
that team a lot, so
Yeah, absolutely.
good peeps.
Itemization and crafting.
Whew,
There's
hefty.
there's actually a lot of changes that we have not yet discussed on the crafting front. So you guys have had a pretty rudimentary insight into what crafting is in Ashes of Creation. And in Alpha 1, we just had the basic core loops, right? Which is like I collect a thing,
I
I
hit a thing,
combine
I
a
get a
thing,
thing, I put some
and I get
inventory.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Collect, combine, get. And that is a pretty simplistic approach that we wanted to just have present from, again, a gameplay loop that was in Alpha 1, but Alpha 2 is meant to really represent a few of these professions in their true form from gathering, processing, and a crafting's perspective. Now, there's some additional gameplay layers that are intended to be tested as part of Alpha 2, as it relates to actually crafting, excuse me, crafting something or processing something. There additionally is a concept called um, surveying, which is a component of gathering that makes things a little bit different than what players have been accustomed to in most MMOs in the past. And just to give you a little bit of idea behind kind of those gameplay layers that we're thinking about, we've talked about ideas like land management, and as you draw resources from your surrounding area, what type of effect does that have on the land? And then also, how effectively can you draw those resources without having such a deleterious effect on the land, right? Which might impact future resource gathering for some period of time. And it makes relevant the movement of these players who are collecting these goods from the environment, that they actually cannot always just do so in one particular area as the land management begins to degrade. So it actually encourages movement across the world to discover new areas that might not be as perturbed as the ones you're coming from. It's a very interesting idea. It's something that we're going to be prototyping in Alpha 2 and getting feedback on and testing. Corey and Mike Hahn have been leading endeavors on the design side for those types of ideas, which are really fun, and we're going to talk about at some point in the future as well. Outside of that, we've also had a considerable amount of work that has been coming out of the design side from Chris Justo's NodePod with Bucky and Jason and a few of our other designers on service buildings and the node superpowers and relics and the reliquary system that's going to be present in Alpha 2, the types of benefits that are conferred there, the gameplay between capturing those relics and stealing them or sabotaging their return to the nodes. What type of passive benefits do they grant the citizens? What types of active benefits are being conferred upon vassal states, the upgrade paths that are going to be present within the service buildings, working with environment to kind of mask out sections of a building until the upgrade comes online and a new room opens up or a new wing or a new story. It's really interesting to kind of see the specialization paths that are possible on an individual node basis that makes that particular node a waypoint for certain types of players, right? And how it drives traffic from the player base to those nodes that increases things like the taxable revenue that's possible. And then that, of course, bleeds into the types of additional buildings or defensive mechanics or initiatives and events that can be done. Incorporating things like node policies from almost a civic standpoint that grant certain types of actions that the node government can take, whether it be diplomatic actions like potentially conflicts with other nodes and the wars that happen, what type of rep you need to have with those other nodes from a diplomatic perspective can be influenced by these policies. There's a lot of stuff that's been worked on from the node team that's being supported by our engineering team with regards to this feature development in preparation for Alpha 2. So as an engineering design kind of overview, I'm sorry if I'm super long-winded.
No, it's
There's
great.
just so much stuff.
The chat's like, my brain is melting because there's just so much stuff. And Stephen will not be able to go through everything. There's
no,
even more stuff. We'd be here all day.
There's a lot. Sometimes I feel like my mind is on the precipice of just breaking in half when there's just what there is to cover on a daily basis from my schedule. But there is so much to be excited about that this team is working on, and not only that they're working on, but that they are creating in such a way that is unlike any experience that I've had as a gamer and as an MMO player. And I'm just so incredibly excited. I guess I'm fresh off the heels of our internal live stream, our town hall. So if I seem overly excited, it's because watching the presentation at the end of our first, 2022 milestone, has made me excited. So
Yeah.
I
Our internal
apologize.
milestones.
I
So.
apologize to you and to those out there who do not have this game in their hands yet. If I am hyping this, I don't want to be like, I'm not hyping this. I'm just very excited myself. And I want to convey the excitement to you guys. But I also want to temper that there's still
We're
a
in
lot
development. We have a lot of work.
still in development. There's a lot of work. And last stream, we showed a very big system, the character
Yeah.
creator, and we showed, oh, are we dying? Are we losing?
Oh, yeah, the internet just crashed.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Wait,
Oh, it's back.
wait a minute. Are we back? Uh-oh.
See if the stream dropped.
How are we doing? Stand
It
by.
seems like we're still up, so
All right.
we'll wait for it to. Sorry about that.
Yes.
Seems like the internet took a hiccup.
Okay, I think we're back. But anyways,
Okay.
I just wanted to say, another thing is that last month we showed off the character creator, right? And that's obviously was a very exciting thing for everyone to see. It gives you a level of quality for what we're hoping to achieve with all of our systems in the game in general, and you guys get to see that stuff. And but that we are actively in development, and we need to be conscientious of how we present the systems during our development. And what that means is sometimes we're not going to have streams that are as as
visually
exciting,
appealing,
as
yeah.
visually appealing
Yeah.
as a character creator. So I just want to make sure we temper expectations that we're going to show you guys stuff. We're going to show you stuff strategically that's smart and that can be shown by other content creators and stuff. But just be patient for that. I know you guys have been patient. We appreciate that. We love the patience that our community has, but understand that patience will yield a very good product. So.
All right. Well, let's transition into talking a little bit about our event system and how that works, if you don't mind transitioning
Sure.
to that.
Yeah.
We have a little video that we'll play.
I like event systems.
Just some B-roll video. Whilst we talk about this. Oh.
Somebody said that, Margaret, someone said that you cut the stream to stop me from leaking.
I didn't. I think it was Twitch because
Oh.
I didn't touch anything. We actually didn't stop the stream. It was like Twitch hiccuped, and then we're back now. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah. I actually have mute power. I can just mute Steven.
I know.
I own the power.
No bully. No bully.
I know I wouldn't ever.
So
as a joke, maybe, but
what we wanted to talk about on today's stream was a little bit more systems driven. Chatting kind of about how content gets introduced into the world, and things like these little goblins that you see. By the way, I love these little goblins.
Yeah, they're cool. I like the shaman.
Yeah, the shaman's cool. But what I love about the goblins is they're really a unique monster race from the sense that they have social organization to themselves, right? And a lot of monsters kind of share that aspect, that they have these kind of social organizations where you can develop goblin tactics, and you can have some goblin identities, and you can have variants in those types of the types of goblins that you can even experience. But anyways, so when we're talking about events, we've talked about this in the past a little bit. Some of you guys know the event system, but really what the events represent is a way for us to attempt and introduce content in a more fluid, in a more natural, in a more kind of progression-based way that the world is reacting to player activity. And what we mean by player activity is in the event system, we have certain predicates, and these predicates act as requirements that must be satisfied before a particular story arc or a particular event can kick off, right? And these events are very, very wide ranging in what they can be, right? This could be a plague that's sweeping the lands. It could be a natural disaster that is a forest fire or a volcanic eruption. It could be a response from a particular NPC faction or a monster faction, like here you see the goblins kind of assaulting a town. But what's interesting about these events, and something that I think correlates to kind of how I run D&D campaigns as well, is that there's always a clock ticking in the world, right? There's always something that's happening in the background, regardless of what player decisions are made sometimes, right? These things can continue to develop. And if you don't pay attention to them, or if you don't respond to them, if you do not stop them from advancing in stages, right? These things will have effects on your day-to-day activities. They will create obstacles. They will potentially destroy buildings. They will create havoc within the game player world that will force you to respond. And if you do not, you will suffer the consequences. So let's see. Did you give me? Let me see
Yeah, I
here if I
have
have
little
these.
talking points for you here.
Oh,
Can you,
sweet.
yeah.
Where-
Steven's using the run of show, you guys. It's exciting.
I know. I'm so sorry.
I'm just
I'm
messing.
like, where is my run of show? Okay, I think I have it here. Okay, perfect. So one of the things that we kind of consider behind the event applications are like where these events live. So obviously, one of the most common probably events that you guys have experienced in other MMORPGs are calendar events. Calendar events can be server-wide events that give us unique content based on the duration of either some type of real world holiday or in-game holiday or beat. Now that's not to say that these are going to be campy or that they're going to be out of immersion, so to speak. We have a lot of ideas on how certain real world holidays can be contextualized within the game world and
And
seem fitting, right?
we actually asked you all for your feedback in regards to events and holidays and if you'd like to see those. And looking at the feedback from that, it seems like you guys want a mix. You want a mix of in-game holidays and seasonal events and things like that that are pertinent to the culture of the world and different from real life. And then you also want some that coincide with real life, but have their own culture and purpose in the
Absolutely.
game. And I think we
Yes.
can definitely incorporate all of that feedback for sure.
Yeah, and part of the great thing that the content team, the narrative team, that's Scott and Chris and Amy and Win and Tony, part of the things that they're working on is creating a lot of cultural identity for these character races, and how we can bring about kind of these calendar events from the perspective of each individual race. That's something that I think is going to be really helping identify or giving identity to each of the character races. The other thing I want to say is that Amy and Clayton have been working very hard on this event system. So I want to give them super kudos, big props to Amy Watanabe and Clayton Stamper.
Also
Next thing,
Scott
yeah.
and I
Oh,
believe Chris
Scott
Holtorf.
Bacara, Chris Holtorf,
Yeah.
absolutely, and recently Tony as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So note
I'm like, you
attacks.
gotta list all the names.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So the next thing, and this is kind of indicative of the little video that you see here, the little loop that we're playing, is node attacks. Some of the events that spawn have consequences that lead to node attacks, right? And enemies have a particular type of hate list on certain buildings that a node may have access to when they attack during an event. And that hate list might relate to or that building choice might relate to something that is indicative of the storyline for that particular event. Or it could be something that is more pivotal to the defense of the city. If the city doesn't respond to these types of things, that might weaken them for potential player attacks afterwards, right? And that's something that's very important as well. Monster coin events. We've talked about this in the past. Monster coins are obviously items that allow players to become monsters for some period of time. Events allow players to kind of opt in from the monster's perspective and take out their rage on other players or different factions, but without having to be their own player character at that time. I think that breaks up the monotony of what playing your character class might always represent on a day-to-day basis, and give you a little bit of fun. Little bit of a fun part time away from that. The other thing is our kind of POI events. So POI events typically tell stories of the particular POI, right? Like, why does this POI exist? Why are there monsters here? This point of interest that might be some tower, or might be some dungeon. How does that population interact with the rest of the world outside of just its point of interest, right? And those things could be precursors for node attacks themselves. It could address the story of nearby threats as antagonists to civilization in general. Enemies can only really grow stronger as the node grows, becoming outposts essentially for exiled or rivals of the existing order. The other thing about node conflict NPCs is that they might have influential inhabitants of the world, right? You might have, a dude who's the leader of the speakeasies, and they, have information to give you. And if you don't, interact with them, they might give you that information to your enemies, and that might spawn off some other event. So these are also closely integrated with storylines and story arcs in general. The other thing, you could have certain type of PvP objectives and PvP driven events. The event system is used to create PvP situations in the open world as almost battlegrounds, right? Open world battlegrounds. And I've talked about this in the past as well. But usually my definition of what a battleground is non-traditional. It's not typically something that is defined in the same way in other MMORPGs, but I kind of view them as these small skirmishes that might lead up to a siege or to a war, and they might have capture points during node and castle fights. And these PvP objectives may be more relevant for smaller groups than for giant raids, and you might have concurrently running objectives during a particular event where you have to dispatch groups simultaneously to go address these objectives in order to complete one particular type of event or one particular type of success condition. So that is another element of our PvP objectives and how they work in the event systems as well. One important thing to note about events in general is notifications are sent to the players, right? Players can kind of opt into these events in a similar way that you would into a quest, right? You're going to be presented with a, would you like to participate? But they might not always be that way. You might hear trees falling in the forest, and that may be an audio cue to tell you something's happening over there. It's out of the ordinary. This is not normally an audio cue that I hear in this area, and I'm going to go investigate that thing. So it might not just be always that kind of UI window represented with a participate or not, but I'm going to go investigate. And in that sense, it could be stage driven. So you might have the more local stage where it is just the visual or audio cues, and you get to go participate in that stage. And then when it advances, or if you don't answer the problem in time, then it starts to expand regionally. And then it might send out particular notifications to either citizens of the node from which it falls under its purview, or even broader than that, right? It could be global driven events. And then it could have things that are visual cues that are really big, like a giant blizzard that's affecting the zone because the event hasn't been addressed. And that can affect the crop rotations, or it can affect passages and roads and how caravans move. There's a lot that the predicate system informs to the event system, and then the event system reacts to those types of predicates, right? There's also event levels. The level of a particular event content is scaled essentially with the level of the content that triggers it. So for example, if the event takes place in a zone that has a base population of, let's say, average level 25, then one of the trigger conditions might be that 10 monsters of level 25 have been killed recently in that zone, and the level 25 event will now spawn additional content designed for level 25 players. So these events aren't always going to be end game. They're going to be obviously appropriate based on the content in which the predicate system is informing, but they also could be something completely top level that is introduced at a lower level area and brings population traffic of the players back to those types of things. There's one other important thing is that events are driven by what we call a state machine, right? And there are essentially 5 types of states that exist for events. There's the in progress state, there's the active state, inactive, on cooldown, or disabled. And that is essentially a way that we inform what types of elements, what stage of activity things are coming online based on what event state is currently active at the moment. We talked a little bit about kind of triggers. We have world conditions like node levels, we have seasons and climates and calendar, the service building activation, relics and completed raids. All of these things can be part of what informs. I'm not going to go into what everything can be. I don't want to dish out, the nitty gritties of the system per se, but I'm just giving you an idea of what essentially allows events to become a thing. And then once those things are addressed or not addressed, certain cooldowns get triggered. Other conditions might trigger. It could form as a predicate for an additional event. There could be concurrent events. Uh-oh. Are we alive? I feel like we're dropping again.
Yeah, it looks like Twitch is hiccuping again.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we're back.
It's still in the red.
We're under attack.
And now it's green again.
And
but
we're back.
There's an ad playing, so give it 4 seconds.
Not like these.
Yay!
Okay,
we're good again. Yeah,
right,
Twitch
let's
is
get F's in chat. F's in chat for connection.
Fortunately, it's not my internet, it's Twitch's side, so it's not cutting. It's not like making the video cut.
Yes, that's true. This is true. Okay. But anyway, so that's the general kind of new information that you may or may not have had in the past regarding events. I'm not sure if I missed anything.
I think it's going red again.
No.
I'm looking at the.
It says the video skips, but the audio is fine.
Interesting.
Well, we always can't have. Remember when we used to have so many issues, audio issues, and like. You may not remember that.
I wasn't here. It was before my time.
Uh-oh. But now it is your time. No, I'm just kidding.
But this is not me. It's
I know,
Twitch.
I'm just messing with you.
But now it is your time, Stephen.
The time of the orc is no, I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh.
Anyways, did I miss anything in the explanation, or any questions you have for me about events at all, Margaret?
I think the only thing I would want to mention is that this isn't all of them.
No.
Yeah.
We want to obviously this type of system. Are we still alive?
It says we are, but it's definitely
maybe
skipping.
it's the goblin video. Let's kill the goblin.
Should we kill the goblin video? Okay.
I don't know.
I don't think it should be because it's my CPU is like 2%. Maybe Twitch can't handle the goblins. The goblins are too powerful for Twitch.
Goblins are strong. Goblins are strong. Okay. Yeah. So to Margaret's point, this obviously isn't everything about the system. We don't want to reveal everything about the system, but we do want to give you context for how the system interacts with the players. And we do want to give you kind of an idea of how these things advance and progress and how they get initiated, and just to give you a general idea of all of what events can entail, so that the type of living, breathing, typical cliche terminology that's used for these types of systems.
Yeah.
But the goal is to really create something that is that feels immersive, that feels organic, that feels reactive to kind of player agency in the world. And the event system is one of those components. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of basically that risk versus reward versus consequence that we have talked about many times when it comes to Ashes of Creation. We want if you ignore those goblins, they're going to be plotting something. So you will
Yep.
have to, deal with what the repercussions of those are. But if you're, take care of it early on, maybe you're rewarded for that. So kind of keeping those
Absolutely.
things in mind. Also, I believe there will be a feedback thread about events that is going to be popped up now-ish. Vecnar, I know you're making it live. So if you can pop that live now, you're welcome to go over to our forums, leave us feedback in regards to your thoughts. We'll also have an article that will be going out, I believe, next week. And that will also kind of give you a rundown of this again if you're, if reading is a little bit easier for you than listening to us talk, but we'll also embed the video segment so you can, listen back and read at the same time along with us. I did
I
have
feel like
one question that was
I feel
asked. Oh, go ahead.
I feel like it was the Goblin video. Like maybe we should have made them gremlins because they were messing. I'm just kidding.
I don't think
Yeah,
it
what
is.
was
I
the
think
question?
Twitch is having server issues right now.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, I looked at their thing. I think they were having server issues.
Got it.
In regards to this question that I saw in chat, I think it might be something that you could answer, and
Sure.
it's from Levioima. I'm not sure how to pronounce your.
Levioima.
They wanted to know, you don't have to answer this today, but I would
Okay.
appreciate an answer on stream over the next couple of days. If you are going to link some holidays to out of game events, how will
Mhm.
you resolve the time difference? Since it was said that in game time will be faster than real world time, like 4 times faster, I believe. And that's kind of a valid question to ask.
Oh,
And
I see. So
yeah,
will seasonal events in the real world align with the seasonal rotation in the game world? And I think in that sense, probably not. That's going to require a little bit of suspension of disbelief in understanding that. But it's also fair that in-game events do not need to be perfectly cyclical, like let's say seasonal events are in the real world. They could have a non-uniform cycle associated with them. But yeah, we also, there is something to be said for having that represented in the game, as long as it's immersive, as long as it's contextualized within the story and the world and the universe that we've created, and isn't a direct homage to Santa Claus in the real world, right? Like, just to use a prime example or
yeah,
something. But it can be a fun thing for players to experience, and it doesn't always have to.
I think we're red again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Twitch is
Oh
not
no.
happy.
Oh no.
I am recording locally right now, so for this end bit, just in case it like hardcore hiccups.
Twitch. Is it Twitch? What are they doing?
I don't know.
Um, okay, but either way, hopefully that answered your question.
I think that was a good answer.
Yep.
Got some ads playing for folks, but they'll be able to listen to the video as well.
Yeah, it's good. What do we
um,
got next?
our
Some
next thing
art?
is environment art. If we're ready to rock and
Yay.
roll, so let's go ahead and hop over there. So, the first thing is, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about what Environment has been working on, but I know they've been working on a lot of biome-oriented things in regards to Alpha 2.
Well, and so this is, so we're doing concept. So this is some concept that Joe has done with regards to fleshing
Pirate
out some
Village
of the
homes.
architectures of the Pyre culture. So these are different types of home concepts for the Pyre. And you can see, obviously, the approach here is to be as seamless between the environment that these homes exist in and the architecture itself. So there's a lot of root structures that are incorporated. They're likely going to be using similar foliage actors that exist within the world as a means to integrate integrate these types of structures with their surrounding environment. I really love how Joe kind of captures not just the element of the building here and the design of that particular building for the modelers to kind of utilize, but also to give context for how these buildings live within the environment by incorporating the ancillary natural features.
And
So
this is
very
definitely work
cool.
in progress. They're just kind of trying to solidify, how do these different layers live? How do they interact with the environment, as Steven said? So take note that these are not final. These are just concepts to kind of give us an understanding of where we're headed with them. The next
Yeah.
thing that we're going to show here is the Ayla ruins, which, this is obviously in-game screenshots. These are modular sets that in the beginning of the new portal area ruins for the Ayla Elder race to be used throughout the Riverlands. So we've shown off the Riverlands stuff in the past already,
Oh, I
um,
see.
and
I
now you're
see it
getting to
now.
see a little bit further of those.
I'm watching on stream as well.
Yeah, it's
Um,
lagging. I'm recording
yeah,
locally, so
yeah,
we'll
that's
use
no
the
worries.
local video. Yeah.
So these, obviously you guys are aware you're coming back to Vera. Vera once had very large parent race civilizations, and much of the landscape incorporates kind of ruined buildings and these sets that you're going to come across in the world to kind of communicate that age and that distant past feeling. But part of that is determining the parent race's original architecture and what their cities did look like, because there are going to be cutscenes in the game that kind of take you back in time to visualize the fall and the apocalypse and stuff along those lines as incorporating a certain story elements. So in that sense, we create kind of the pristine version of the Aylan architecture, and then we destroy it down into these ruined points of interest and or ruined set dresses for the environments.
And then next we have a little teaser um, of a couple screenshots of some of the new tech that they're going to be showing off in the future. I don't know if you want to talk how
Ooh,
much you want to talk about that, but I know they
yes.
wanted to tease these a little bit.
I
Uh,
actually I went out to lunch with the environment team yesterday, and we were talking about showcasing this in the next stream, and they
maybe
pretty confident on
they were
that. So
like,
I'm
"Don't give a
if
timeline,"
they're
and then
if they're
Steven's screaming.
confident, hey, if they're confident, I'm confident. So I will say that I have seen the preliminary tech here, and it is freaking cool. These are just teaser images, but wait until you see the video about this tech and how seasons are introduced within the world. It is something that I think is going to be a very staple and unique aspect of the Ashes of Creation MMORPG. Its world is going to be seeing the drastic differences that are introduced visually for each biome and each environment when the cycles of seasons are introduced. And you're going to see that tech, which has taken a lot of effort from our technical art teams and from the environment teams in accomplishing, but it is something that it feels just so good. And of course, it has deeper implications, right? As it applies to certain systems like crop rotations and being able to kind of grow things, but also how does that affect the economy? Like if a particular region moves into a season and that week you can't grow a particular type of good, but another region halfway across the world can grow that good. And you talk about moving those goods across regions so that they're relevant to either craft workbenches or you can sell them in the local economies. That is a major indicator of movement of goods, and movement of goods carries risks, and risks can create political foes and friends. So all that stuff is something as simple as just a climate can have cascading consequences across the entirety of the game. And yeah, I think it's pretty cool.
All right, moving on to our character goodness. Um, I'm looking at. Oops, that was supposed to be last. You saw nothing. The first one here is our Sleep Seers Rement, as you've seen before, and I'll play the 3D element of this. This is the 3D model of it. Our artists are so amazing. You see concept art and pretty much everything looks just like the concept. So pretty sick, awesome headdress. You can kind of see how
Yeah,
the
it
light
looks
reflects on
great.
everything.
Who did this one? Was Danny, Eli?
I didn't. I forgot to put the names on those
Uh-oh.
ones, so I don't want to give credit to someone with the wrong names.
That's true.
And then the next one here is our Steed of the Frayed Corpse. Work in progress. You guys might get your bingo card.
Oh, the horse looks so
Maybe.
good.
All right, and then the next one is the lovely Amethyst Bow Bite.
Oh, it's like a little alpaca.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was basically like
It's like
alpaca
a
plus
llama
a
alpaca.
turtle together. That's how I designed it when I was designing
It's
that
an it's an alpama
and
or a talpama.
Topom.
Turtle, alpaca, llama.
And then next we have our Rock Hawk, which is looking so sick.
Rock hawk.
Rock
I like that.
And don't say it too fast.
Margaret,
sorry.
unbelievable.
Come on, we all know where that was going.
Unbelievable.
We'll keep PG. Next up, we have our work in progress, a scarab, but we haven't really had. I know there's been people asking for bugs, so here you go.
Oh, little beetle dude.
Yeah.
Now, how big is that?
I would assume it's probably a big beetle that you're gonna fight. But I'm sure they could make little ones too.
Yeah.
And then we've got the thing you totally didn't see earlier, which is the work in progress of the Scorpion boss. And we do have an image for scale right there.
Oh yeah.
Sick.
This guy is scatty.
So sick.
I think either Jinsey or Keith is working on this one.
I don't want to say who it is if I have it wrong. But yeah,
You know, he just looks like he's a misunderstood.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally not gonna attack you and eat your face.
No, he seems like a cuddle bug. You know what I mean? No pun intended.
So cuddly with all those spikes.
Yeah, imagine those spikes. No, they're not meant to poke you. They're meant to embrace you.
All right. Whatever you're into, Stephen. And of course, that wraps up this segment for our character art. We'll move on to our Q&A and try to answer as many questions as we can here. I know we do have a hard cutoff at some point because Stephen has another meeting. He is a fairly booked man. The first one here we have here is about role play. And the question is, will the custom text chat command /e/emote/me or some variant of it be in the game for roleplay? And they don't mean like emotes like dancing and stuff like that. That they mean like, can they type in the text that they want to type in?
Yeah, I think that wasn't that present in Alpha 1? I think it was in Alpha 1. Like you could type the / emote you wanted and it would play like a wave, or you could clap, or you could do some like victory stuff.
Yeah, they don't want it to be animated. They're just saying like, can I just type whatever I want, like / ME
and then what does that do in the what do they want that to do in the game?
It does nothing other than put text there, I think is more so
Oh,
what they
then
mean.
yes, you
So they
may
can
chat.
roleplay. Yeah.
You can chat in the chat box for sure.
Yeah, like you can say /chuckles, but it's not like tied to an animation.
Yes, you can do that.
Karthos wants to know naval combat. Can I equip my ship with a ram and plow into other ships and maybe raid bosses to inflict damage while not completely wrecking my own ship?
There might be particular ship components and or classes that excel at that type of activity.
Awesome. The next one is from Goalid, and they would like to know about vassal nodes. Village nodes and higher level nodes give out certificates for freeholds to be placed in their ZOI, zone of influence, for those who don't know. If
Mhm.
I place my freehold in a vassal node, can I get citizenship in the parent node?
That is a very good question, actually.
I
Right
know you
now,
guys
I
are doing a
believe
lot of
we
vassal
are,
node
yeah, right,
design.
yeah, right now, actually, we are intending on the freehold system to work in both scenarios. But that may change. But you would have an option depending on where you procured the certificate from. As long as it is either in the parent or the vassal area, it could be a part of either. You give that declaration when you lay down the freehold. But like I said, that may change because we are actively defining a different approach on some of the vassal systems.
Awesome, awesome. Next up, we've got Nia asking about emotes. Will there be interactions with pets and mounts, such as petting, hugging, or playing with them?
Oh yeah, I would love to. I mean, I think actually a long time ago, animation did do some of that. As a matter of fact, in Alpha 1, you might have seen some of the anims on the rider of a horse that they went down and kind of patted the side of the neck, or they would pet kind of those. But those would be separate actions that you could potentially do as just additional emotes, but interfaces with a mount or a pet that you have active.
All right. And then we've got questing lore from Dismas, and they want to know, will we be processing through an overarching story and chapters of a narrative, or will it largely be exploration and contained in small regional quest lines dotted throughout the world?
Both.
Yeah.
There will be a healthy dose of both of those. That the approach of the narrative team is that there is, of course, a meta story. That meta story gets informed by regional stories and regional outcomes, and depending on how players progress within their personal stories, that could be either racially based or could be their class based. They could be per node basis. Like all of those things support a grand structure of the meta narrative, but that's how you effectuate kind of outcomes.
Cool, cool. And then we've got Schmucky asking about leveling. Will each node have a couple or have a complete and unique path for a player to get to max level? So this is like, could I just go to one node and
Um,
level up to max level?
Could you do that? The way that the nodes influence spawners around its area, if the node were high enough level, it would have relevant experience grants that you could likely just live your life at a particular node. However, that probably would not be the most effective means of leveling. Is it possible? Perhaps, yes. But it would be probably at a reduced pace.
Okay. And then Roni Siponi, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, wants to know about monster coins. If an economic building is disabled in a monster coin event, will it have economic consequences in regions other than the node in which it was destroyed?
Potentially, yes, depending on what the service building was that got disabled. So, for example, if the service building that got disabled was a blacksmith's building that housed a workbench, which was the only workbench in the region capable of crafting a T5 or a tier 5 or high tier quality equipment, then of course that would have ramifications economically, as those pieces of equipment that are already readily available would raise in prices, and because there would be a issue within the supply chain of those items being introduced into the economy, you would potentially have some supply and demand changes economically, and that could span regions, that could be global, even. So, yeah.
And then we have a question from Schwan36 wanting to know about naval content. Since you need to be at a port or harbor to summon a ship, and that's only big ships, small ships you could do not at those. If a ship is destroyed whilst out at sea, Will the player need to slowly swim back to shore or get a ride, or are they just stranded out there? What's the
Yeah, I mean, there's a real fast ride that they could take, and typically that would involve them kind of just swimming under the water and letting life take its, take them away.
Stephen?
But no,
Stephen. Oh my
by
God.
the way, do not advise doing that in real life or anything. I'm just saying, like in the game world, there's a fast way and there's a slow way, but those are really kind of your options at that point.
Okay, because
Uh,
some games have, things that will let you go back to shore or recall back or something of that sort.
Yes.
Um,
No, we don't have a recall. We don't have that type of there is consequence for you losing the means of your mobility. And if you lost the means of that mobility, then those consequences are it's going to take you longer to get to where you need to go, or you're going to have to suffer some experience debt.
all right. And then Dabs 16 wants to know about sieges. If a person is a citizen of a node when a siege scroll is dropped on the node, can they move their citizenship before the siege occurs? Very interesting question.
For the most part, yes, they could do that.
Do they get a deserter tag or something?
So there are certain policies that the node could have active at the time that might exacerbate the penalties for departing the city as a citizen prior to a siege taking effect, but during the declaration period. That is a answer that has a variable component to it.
Okay. And then Richie SH wants to know about the Underrealm. Can we expect the Underrealm and Tulnar starting area to be more built up civilization wise, since those inhabitants have existed on Vera since the apocalypse?
Well, it's important to note actually that the Tulnar's locations within the Underrealm that they took refuge in during the um, uh, after the Exodus, um, that portion was protected. Well, actually, I don't want to get into that too much.
Yeah, you don't want to. Okay. I know the.
I almost slipped there. I'm glad I did not actually. But how can I answer that question? I'm not going to give an answer to that
You don't
question.
have to
Yeah,
necessarily give an answer.
yeah.
Okay. And then, sorry, Richie, you'll have to experience in game to find out. The next question is about mounts, and this is from Lashing, and they would like to know, will gliding tier 2 mounts have to sacrifice speed, other stats, or an ability slot to keep tier 1 mounts relevant?
Um, No, tier one mounts are relevant. And this is something that's going to be explained in our stable systems and how mounts are counted for later on. We haven't gotten into an article about the stable systems yet or discussed really how they work.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, you're going to have active mounts. And those active mounts, I'll tease this a little bit. The active mounts are determined based on you having that active mount as part of a slot within the stable that you're within the area of. And what that means is that mounts are relevant in battle. And if you lose your mount in battle, it is a detriment. There are ways for you to bring that mount back. There are active potions that you can have available to you to do fast resurrections, to reduce that cooldown potentially. And you can also interface with the stable itself if you want to swap that mount out with a different mount. But tier one mounts will have certain types of abilities that are unique to the tier ones, and the tier twos will have certain abilities that are unique to the tier twos. In some cases, those will be horizontal. In other cases, they'll be vertical power gain. So it just depends on the situation. It's a situational element.
Perfect. And then we have our last question is going to be about endgame from Gizmo. Gizmo as in like MOW, like mowing the lawn. And they want to know, how do you plan to balance professions to keep them equally useful and relevant at endgame?
Well, that's
It's
not a
hard.
small
Balance is
question.
a hard
I was
question.
gonna
It's
say that's
very
not
ambiguous.
it's a big question.
Hmm.
Balance is, of course, something that is done through testing, through iteration, and also watching player behavior. So, when it comes to balancing a system, that's something that we do during testing phases. When it comes to architecting the system itself and identifying the areas in which certain professions excel, where they interact with ancillary systems, their interconnectivity across the artisanship system as a whole, the important part there is to identify how the interconnectivity lives with the other professions in the artisanship system, and what type of reliance you have on particular professions to complete the path of crafting or introduction of new items into the economy. And I think that one of the things you need to strive to do is not to create arbitrary and one-off bespoke professions that aren't part of that integration, that whole holistic kind of view of the profession system. Corey and Mike are doing a great job in kind of identifying the importance of each profession across the artisanship as a whole, the artisanship systems as a whole. And right now we have 20, I believe we have 22 professions, and we're talking about masteries, like ultimate masteries, living within only 2 of those to start for any one individual character. So there's that doesn't mean that you can't achieve like tier 3 and tier 4 intermediate proficiency within those systems and have some interaction across the whole. But when it comes to complete mastery, we're really kind of identifying around 2 or 3 right now. But that's something that gets play tested, something that gets iterated upon, something that we get feedback on. That's an important aspect for sure.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you answering all of those questions, Stephen. I know it's a lot. But of course, we hope that you all enjoyed our April development update. As we said, there will be an ebb and flow of those big ones where we showcase a lot of cool in-game stuff versus the others where we kind of give you little pieces trickling here and there. But we hope that you enjoyed hearing about the event system. We will have an article going out next week or sometime coming up that you can check out, as well as there already is a feedback thread up. If you have any, thoughts on the event system thus far, feel free to drop them over there. And then, of course, we also have our hairstyle feedback thread up. We would love to hear your thoughts on those things, especially for the hairstyles. If you can provide some imagery, that assists our artists quite greatly. And we're really excited. We hope that you have enjoyed seeing our update. And just quick reminders that the Road to Desolation Cosmetics swap over will be on May 11th. So if you'd like that, check it out. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Stephen, for your time. We hope that you all stay safe and healthy. And of course, if you didn't get to watch this or you kind of came in later, it will be immediately available over on Twitch if Twitch's VODs want to work with us. Otherwise, we will be putting this up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ashesofcreation. And if you subscribe to us over there and leave us a comment on the video, your comment could be selected randomly to be spotlighted on our next live stream, which we will, if it's a question, we'll answer. If not, we'll maybe discuss it a little bit. Maybe it's about tacos. I don't know what it's going to be about, but we hope to see it. And of course, follow us on all the places. We of course do this big update on live streams once a month, but we do a ton of updates on our social media throughout the month. So if you want to see daily content, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, go check us out. Pop on over to our Discord. Vaknar and Roshan are always interacting with people daily over there, as well as over on our forums. We would love to have you join us and be part of our Ashes family. And we will see you all next month for another development update.
Bye, everybody. Have an awesome weekend.